Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music Podcast, we're glad you all could be with us as well. We're excited to welcome author Andrea Dunlop to our program today. She's celebrating a great new book called Women Are the Fiercest Creatures. We're going to talk to Andrea not only about the writing of the book, but also, I think, not only is it entertaining, but also it's an inspiration as well. We'll talk to her about what kind of inspires the book, but also what it's been like for her to already see the early response to it as well. Andrea, thank you again for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Cyrus. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Oh, well, look, this book is it kind of gives us everything. It's funny. It definitely, I think, is engaging. But there are some great lessons. I'm going to actually touch on one a little bit later that I picked up on. But I want to talk to you about this experience for you. And it's so appropriate we're having you on during Women's History Month because you've been able to write books that people look forward to. What has that been like for you, Andrea, to be able to do what you love and to see the way people respond to it?
I mean, it's the best feeling in the world. You know, I wanted to be an author from the time I was a little kid, and I'm on my fourth book now, and it never gets old to see my book in bookstores and to hear from readers, and it's just a really special and magical thing, to be honest. And I try never to take it for granted that people are taking time out of their lives and money out of their pockets to come into my, imaginary world. So it's really a gift.
Well, to that point, Andrea, I think that is what makes you so good at this because, as you said, they're coming into your world, but I think the thing that I'm sure you've heard, because I think we see it in the newest book, is that they see a bit of themselves in it. Is that part of the connection you do see readers having to your books?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always with novels, right? When you can sort of plug yourself in to it and really hopefully see things from the character's perspective. And I think that's one of the things that makes novels so special and so powerful overall, just as a medium, is that we can walk in other people's shoes, right? And even if we don't think from the outside that we have that much in common with a character, often by the time we're in their heads for 100 pages or so, we find we do. So yeah, right. that's what you hope for. You hope to connect with people. You hope your stories can entertain them, take them away from their lives for a little bit, and in the best case, make them feel a little bit less alone in their own life experiences.
Love that. You said that this is something you've always wanted to do. For this particular book, Women Are the Fiercest Creatures, what was kind of the seed for you? What is it that kind of made you say this is a story you want to tell?
Well, I started this book actually when I was pregnant with my oldest child, my daughter, who's 4.5 now, so that really having kids really makes you realize time is going by. But I started it when I was pregnant with her, and I actually finished it when I was pregnant with my son, who's 8 months old right now. So motherhood was really like the bookends of the writing experience, and a big part of it's inspiration too. I think that was I started off with the character of Sam. My books kind of usually start different ways. Sometimes I have kind of the whole story in mind. Sometimes I just really have one character that I'm following. And in this case, it was Sam, and I knew she was sort of looking for someone from her past and looking to sort of, to reconcile some things that had happened that had really haunted her. And so that was kind of what I started with. And yeah, I just think those themes of motherhood and sort of, I'm 40 now, so, hitting the beginning of midlife and just realizing that, is sort of thinking about how your life has or hasn't turned out how you thought it would.
Right.
And that was something that was really interesting to me.
I'm so glad you brought up Sam because that is actually the one of the characters I wanted to talk to you about, Andrea, that I picked up on. And there was a great conversation you have in the book between Sam and Aaron. And I love the fact that Aaron is a character, especially in this particular instance that I'm about to reference, that really I think is a reminder that so many people want and need, particularly women I think today, because there is I think a lot of times, unfortunately, our women are made to feel as though, what they cannot do. I love the fact that Erin is able to remind Sam of what she can do, and I'll talk around it, but you'll know what I'm talking about. And where she gives her this advice, Erin says to her, as much as I love your particular fitness blend, it's you that makes it special. You make your studio special. If you can find a way to translate that online, no one will be able to replicate it. I love the fact of Erin trying to encourage Sam to realize the gift that she is. I want to talk about that for you. What has that been like for you to do, Andrea, to recognize your gift, but then to be able to share that advice with a character like Sam?
Oh, gosh. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, the book is, in some sense, about women coming into their power and sort of taking what they deserve, right, and feeling entitled to do that. And so I think with Sam, you know, she was cut out of a really important company that ended up going on to make a lot of money, and that's a huge part of the book. But she also has started a company on her own, her yoga and fitness studio, that has been very successful in its own right. But I think sometimes, you know, we look at female entrepreneurship in a really different way than we look at male entrepreneurship, especially because it sort of happens, you know, in the margins in some ways, right? I think there are sort of industries that women are allowed to be big in, and then ones like tech maybe where they're really sort of purposefully shoved out a lot of times, which is a big part of Sam's story. And so, yeah, that conversation with Erin, I love that moment in the book as well, because it's sort of reminding Sam of, like, listen, even if you feel like this is not, you know, this is a small thing, like, it's not, and it could be an even bigger thing because you know, you're the one that makes this special, and it needs you. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of about the smallness versus the bigness. So, yeah, and just about sort of the impact. And I think, you know, as far as, like, how that relates to me, I mean, I don't know that I've thought a lot consciously about that, but I think, like most people, I'm just trying to figure out how I can sort of do the best with what I've been given and make the best impact I can on the world. I guess that sounds a little cheesy, but there it is. It's earnest.
I love that. No, I think it's a great point. And then, and to me, Andrea, I guess the reason why that stuck with me is because thinking about the title of the book, Women Are the Fiercest Creatures, I think that's something always that we need to remind ourselves, right? I mean, of who we are, and especially when it comes to women, being able to realize that regardless of the challenges, like what Sam has gone through and what so many women have experienced, right, that reminding them of the fight that's in them. So for yourself, I mean, now that you're being able to share this book with readers, talk to us about that experience. I mean, because this has been in the time that you've released your books, of course, the world has changed, you know, throughout that time. What has it been like for you now, again, to be able to have that engagement with readers?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, I'm going out on tour next week. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see people in person again, and to be able to connect with readers and also other authors, which is something you get to do a lot on the road. And that's just something that we've all been, you know, we're deprived of during the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, it's been a very, very eventful few years since the last time I published a book, you know, both in my own life. I had a second child. I've been doing a lot of other things. But then, I mean, in the world at large, obviously we had the COVID pandemic, that really impacted women in particular. And of course, like, especially heavily impacted, you know, women of color in particular, in terms of, like, the child care crisis. I mean, many things, right? Because women are the people who do the caregiving for the most part in our society. That just had a huge, massive impact on women. And then, of course, you know, I was sitting at home with a 9-day-old baby the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned. So, I mean, the world could not be sort of more tumultuous for women right now. And so I think, like, these things are really weighing heavy on people's minds. I didn't, you know, directly discuss those issues in the book, but I think that those, you know, the really interesting thing about being an author is you start a book and even you finish a book pretty long before, you know, I was finished working on this manuscript about a year ago. So it's like, you know, you finish a book long before it actually goes out into the world. And so you can never quite anticipate what climate it's going to be released into. And so I think that this message is going to resonate, hopefully, in that way. And I think, unfortunately, like, the word empowering has been sort of co-opted in this weird way, but I hope that it does. I hope that women do feel that way reading it. And I hope that men who read it sort of think about the women in their lives and all that they're capable of.
I totally did. And so definitely mission accomplished there, Andrea. I mean, I think it's, like I said, entertaining. I don't want our audience to miss out on that part. It is entertaining and definitely engaging, but there are some very inspiring pieces in it. So I'm excited for our audience to read it. Again, everyone, Andrea Dunlop has been our guest. Women Are the Fiercest Creatures is her new book. It's out through our friends at Amazon.com or through your favorite local bookstore. If they don't have it, I know they'd be more than happy to order it for you. And Andrea, you mentioned you're about to go on tour. How can our audience stay connected with you?
So the best place to find me is on Instagram. That is where I am the most active these days. So I'm just Andrea Dunlop on Instagram. Love hearing from people on there. I post a lot about what events I'm doing. Some of my events are going to be virtual, so anybody can come to those. That's a great thing that we've discovered during the pandemic. Virtual events are actually really fun. And so, yeah, that's the best place to stay connected with me.
All right. Well, Andrea, thank you again for the time. Really appreciate chatting with you and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much, Cyrus. I appreciate it.
And more than welcome. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live, and it's going to make today amazing. Take care.